Hey Jeep family, I'm Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps, SFJ4x4.com, and we are shooting today from our facility in Conneaut, Ohio. And behind us we have two very similar builds going on, and we actually have some of those components here laid out on the table, and we thought it was a great opportunity to share with you some of what goes into the lift kits that we install. So both of these Jeeps are getting arguably between a 2 and a 3.5 inch lift kit. And we're using very similar components for both of them. A lot of our customers come in and they've gotten quotes from other businesses or they've looked online and the market is absolutely saturated. And we try to focus on USA manufacturers, but we're also looking for a number of specific things that fit our bill that allow us to do installation on a vehicle that will meet the end user or the customer needs the best. We don't often use one complete lift kit manufacturer's lift kit. Typically, we are actually using a couple pieces of this manufacturer and maybe a couple pieces of this manufacturer. And a few years ago, it became very, very trendy online to call that a hybrid kit. To us, we just call it what works. But with that said, we use a number of specific USA manufactured brands to achieve that end goal. So say the customer comes in and their need is that they just go get ice cream in their Jeep and they commute Monday through Friday, 30 miles one way, so you got a 60-mile round trip. And their priority is that really comfortable on-road, those road manners they're looking for. Or we have a customer who comes in and says, you know, my Jeep, I drive it 2, 3, 4 days a week, but I really want it to be a warrior on the weekend, and I want to get max articulation out of it. Where we go to the drawing board then is within the control arms themselves. And we can offer, between those two customers, we can offer two options. Basically, the control arm itself is going to be very similar, but we will utilize either a flex end or a rubber cleveite bushing. Today we're working on both of these Jeeps, and both of them are getting Iron Rock off-road control arms. And we sell a lot of different manufacturers. JKS, Rockcrawler, TerraFlex, and obviously Iron Rock, Rusty's Off-Road. I can go on, but a lot of these good quality USA manufacturers, and we will sell their arms. One of the things that I specifically like about the Iron Rock off-road arms is they don't have a traditional jam nut construction. They have what is commonly referred to as a swedge design. And so you'll see, we'll do a little B-roll and we'll show this in its close-up, but that it actually has a collar, and much like your steering componentry, that collar will pinch down on the rod end and lock it into place. This is a much larger bite of surface than your traditional jam nut. Additionally, jam nuts have a propensity to back off sometimes. We have found a couple ways around those jam nuts backing off. We use what's called a Belleville washer, but when we get to this size, it's much harder to come by a Belleville washer. They will use Loctite, blue or red Loctite, depending on what your application is, but even that has some drawbacks. So we use the Iron Rock off-road arms. This is a very cool design in the flex arm itself. We actually have to hand assemble these, and Iron Rock provides you with instructions to install these 6 bolts. You'll see our paint pen installed on there, and that is as we install this flex end and use lubricant in the process, we then torque these down to roughly 70 to 80 inch-pounds and compress this joint together. That makes the joint fully serviceable, and it makes it a superior off-road joint. And then coupled with this big swedge design, and you can see these Allens to the actual nuts, the full hex nuts there. really pinch this this flex end down and hold it into place. On the other end, we have a rubber cleveite bushing, kind of a traditional style that you would have in your factory JK or JL, even your TJ, so on and so forth. That rubber style is really good at absorbing the road harshness or conditions, but it doesn't flex the best off-road. And that's why we would want to use a serviceable joint like this. Even as you continue to use this, it is greasable and serviceable, and you'll be able to rebuild it. So we have the two ends, and we were talking about beef. These arms are just absolutely solid. They have a nice compound bend to them. You'll actually notice that they actually have a couple different kicks. These, if we lay them out straight, they actually have 2 or 3 different compound bends to them. And you can see the difference between the flex end here on my left, your right as the viewer, and then the rubber cleveite bushing. And I'll turn them over here. And that's the big difference. So the rubber cleveite style, which is more similar to your OE application, is going to be really good at retaining road manners. Again, that daily driven rig that might go out once every couple months to an off-road event, or go camping, or if you're a hunter and you're using it for that application, that's going to be a great option for you. If you're an avid off-roader, this might be a better application for you, in the sense that you're going to gain a little bit of articulation out of the flex end. Additionally, this is going to have a very stout ride, and so it's going to be able to absorb or transfer the energies from a more harsh road condition. It's going to resonate a little bit more up the control arm, but it's going to be more robust through that process. Each manufacturer is a little different. These will be flex ends likely at the frame and rubber at the axle, but there are a number of manufacturers that will reverse that, and it really just has to do with how that manufactured kit has engineered their kit to work. Some manufacturers actually will have a flex end on both ends. We certainly have used some iron rock control arms that are Heims and flex ends. And so it really just depends on what specific application the manufacturer has intended, and then what you, the end user customer, has opted to use your Jeep for. Really, the goal is to optimize your Jeep for your purposes, instead of selling what we call a cookie cutter kit. So both of these Jeeps back here, one is getting more of an off-road package, one is getting more of a on-road or road manner package. But the foundation of the kits are very, very similar.
I have traveled like a fool in the desert, and I've crawled on shards of broken glass, followed my demons after midnight, and I woke up with scars across my chest.
So the Jeep in front of us here, which we're affectionately calling the Mandalorian, based on the theme that the owner has chosen, is getting loud noises! This owner's getting a bunch of goodies, starting with this really awesome Dana Spicer Ultimate 44. Obviously the Jeep is getting re-geared. It's getting an electronic locker in the front. And this particular lift kit with those flex end control arms is getting about 3.5 inches. Now with this Jeep specifically, we're doing all 8 control arms, and we'll make sure in the B-roll that we show you the cool upper control arms that Iron Rock supplies. We're also doing here in front of us a JKS drag link flip kit. We're gonna level out that steering as best possible. At 3.5 inches for us, that's my go-to line. I want that steering to be nice and flat and responsive. So we're gonna raise the track bar up, and we're going to flip the drag link over the knuckle so that our steering components are in the same plane or parallel geometry that allows this steering to be flat and responsive through its travels. So we've got ultimate axle, steering flip, all 8 control arms. We're going to use Fox 2.0 Adventure Series shocks. Those are the shocks that were actually engineered for Jeeps themselves. The Fox 2.0 Performance shocks is also a fantastic shock itself. But we're using the Adventure Series for our JK applications. It's getting these gnarly 37s that we'll show you later, mounted on Black Rhino Abrams wheels. So it's got a very cool color palette going on with the oranges and the greens and the whites. Very, very Star Wars Mandalorian feel to it. It's also getting a Radiance, a rigid Radiance 20-inch light bar mounted on the hood, plus this wild green high lift jack here on the side, which you'll see when you come around. The Jeep behind me is a much more mild build, and that customer was really focused on it being a very clean aspect ratio or proportionate build. And so they're getting a 2.5-inch Iron Rock control arm base kit, also getting the Fox 2.0 Adventure Series shocks. They're only getting the 4 lower control arms. With a 2-door JK, we really like lower control arms, and then all upper control arms if we're over 3 inches, roughly speaking, 3.5 inches. 2-door, short wheelbase, we really got to be able to adjust caster and most importantly rear pinion angle. The Mando is getting an Adams rear drive shaft. That's going to help with that rear pinion angle because of course they put that traditional double carbon brake in there. The 2-door, more mild street built Jeep, since it's only 2.5 inches, the drive shafts and the steering is going to be all perfect, just the way it is. We're going to use adjustable track bars, front and rear. We're going to use reload brackets for both applications. Now, a lot of people, certainly us even about 10 years ago, didn't love relocation brackets. They're still not my favorite product for general suspension improvements, but a rear track bar relocation bracket really is critical in playing an important role in roll center geometry. And so the idea that the rears, both at 2.5 inches and 3.5 inches, are going to get rear relocation brackets and adjustable track bars. That allows us to dial that suspension in just perfectly. We can pull the axle right under center, and that rear track bar elevates the rear track bar reload bracket elevates the track bar and allows us to get a nice flat plane of geometry for roll center. So this side, or the front of the Jeep, is coming together nicely. And again, this Jeep was the one that was really being put together for its quality road manners. Has the double rubber ends. We've set the control arm to a predetermined length. We've actually used a number of manufacturers and our own findings from doing alignments and setting suspension so that we have this factory axle that we can optimize the caster with the front axle to the suspension, because we have obviously increased the vertical rise of the suspension, and so therefore we need to rotate our axle back, but not so far back that it impedes or impinges our drive shaft angle, but that it rotates back ever so slightly so that we can get optimized caster for the application. And upper control arms will really help address caster, but we can kind of do a secondary workaround by elongating or utilizing the lower control arm to push the wheelbase forward ever so slightly, and because they're fixed, we can rotate that C or tube yoke back to increase caster. We also have the Iron Rock adjustable track bar up front on this one, and it also has a kind of a swage design. Now, the unique piece specifically about the SFJ 4x4 Iron Rock marriage of lift kit is that we utilize 2 different bushing ends than they sell regularly in their kit. We do an upgraded track bar to increase stability and firmness, or durometer of the track bar itself. We really want a nice, structurally rigid ride there. It still has sufficient give for the suspension, but we're utilizing an encapsulated or double bushing design. Obviously, our new springs are in. One of the pieces that I absolutely love about the Iron Rock kit is their bump stop package. A lot of manufacturers offer you independent little pucks or plates that will go in the bottom side of the coil bucket here. What Iron Rock does is they give you this beautiful piece of billet aluminum. It bolts into the existing jounce bumper mount, and then you reinsert the jounce bumper. The downside we're seeing is that a Jeep that is it's got some age on it or some miles, that jounce is deteriorated, but you're getting a new jounce with the lift kit when you do it through us, and so that fits in there nicely. And again, we have this beautiful, the Fox 2.0 Adventure Series shock to kind of round out the package. Iron Rock gives you a fixed sway bar link. We're going to go ahead and upgrade that with JKS quicker disconnects. They're just mint in this application. And for an off-road application like the Mandalorian that we just saw, the JKS quicker discos are the way to go. This Jeep's going to get new ball joints here shortly as the guys work through the suspension, and we'll get this all set up so that, again, that on-road manners are accentuated, and this thing just looks proportionately like it came off the factory assembly line, lifted with big tires.
God, just take me over. I'm losing my mind on iceberg, please. I drive to the ocean. You say we could be there phase two. You say holla at your boy from the hardwood. Secondhand smoke from a car hood. I'm learning what's good on a bad day. Not all bad days feel all good. And I've been looking for a job all week though. Bad shots like Shaq on free throws. You think it shouldn't go left on the East Coast, but good friends still forget you like CeeLo. But we know what we know, success is placebo.
So we're gonna jump back to the Mandalorian. Again, 3.5-inch lift, and you can kind of see what we're working with. Again, here we have the upper control arms on this particular lifted Jeep. We're accentuating this one for off-road ability. Also, it's a 2-door, and we're 3.5 inches. So we really want to work to alleviate any type of driveline vibration. Iron Rock Off-Road supplies a pinion, a shim kit to go ahead and try and you would punch out or utilize them here in the upper control arm mounts to try and dial back that pinion angle. Again, much like I was talking about caster, because it's a fixed axle, the actions of the upper control arm and the lower control arm are cooperative or coordinated, and so they actually, by creating adjustments through the adjustable control arms themselves, will actually help us set wheelbase and pinion angle. This is a best case scenario Jeep because, again, the customer really wants to be off-road savvy. We're doing a Adams, a 1310 solid U-joint rear drive shaft and the upper control arms. This particular customer came in and he had a lift kit that had 8 control arms on it, and they unfortunately were pretty worn out. So this was a great opportunity to get him into a superior product. Otherwise, we could potentially forego this if we were doing an aftermarket drive shaft, and we would just use those pinion shims. However, this is as good as it gets. You're getting all the adjustable control arms plus an aftermarket drive shaft. This thing's going to be absolutely sweet when it comes together. So this is the foundational principles of our lift kits, and we're doing a hybrid kit. We're really trying to seek to meet the customer's needs. So whether it's a 2.5 or a 3.5, whether it's all the control arms or just a couple control arms, what kind of shocks you need versus flex joints versus rubber Clevite bushings. All of those things are considered when we're putting our lift kit together for you, the customer. I hope you guys enjoyed the look around. This was a great opportunity because we have our lift kit going on both of these Jeeps. They're very comparable to each other. One is getting that 2.5 inch road ready kit, and the other one is getting a 3.5 inch off-road ready kit. Again, we're using what a lot of people would call a hybrid kit. We're using a number of manufacturers to meet those needs. Not just our needs, but your needs as a customer. There's a lot of cool parts on here, and we can differentiate them for your use or your needs. Whether it's rubber Clevite bushings or a flex joint, whether it's 8 control arms or 4 or 2, varying different shocks that we use, flip, drag link, and steering geometry correction, rear track bar brackets, and adjustable track bars. All of these things are really important. And this is a great opportunity to showcase all of those different aspects of a suspension that's used from a professional to make sure your Jeep is as good as it can be for your need. If you like this video, make sure that you go ahead, you like it, you subscribe, comment below. We read them, we try to respond to them. Tell us what you're running on your Jeep. Do you have, do you know what your lift is? Do you have 6 inches of lift? Do you have 1 inch of lift? Are you running a Mopar? Are you running a Terraflex? Are you running a rock crawler? Tell us below, right? We're gonna respond back to you, we're gonna read them. We love knowing what other people are doing in the industry. And make sure you ring the bell, get those notifications from us, and tune in for our podcasts that go up every Friday. Until then, Jeep family, Jeep on.
And I am myself, went from crutching to credo, and I got an ego as big as Toledo, but got hit the veto, so I'm with amigos in upstate. Sneakers and funfetti cupcakes. What's her name? Drunk on a Monday. Rapping my song at the